Dr. Lisa Martinez was finishing her morning coffee when the emergency alarm shattered the peaceful quiet of Medical Bay 3. The red lights flashed across the walls of Kepler Station, and her communicator buzzed with an urgent message that made her nearly drop her cup. All medical staff to emergency stations. Incoming Draconian vessel requesting immediate assistance. Class 1 medical emergency. Lisa had been the chief medical officer on this remote mining station for 3 years, but she had never treated a Draconian. The dragon-like aliens rarely visited human settlements, and when they did, it was usually for trade or territorial disputes. She grabbed her medical kit and rushed toward the main docking bay, her mind racing through everything she knew about their physiology. The station shook slightly as the massive Draconian ship attached to their largest docking port. Through the reinforced windows, Lisa could see the sleek black vessel with its golden markings. It was easily 10 times the size of any human ship she had ever seen. The design looked both beautiful and terrifying, with wing-like extensions and sharp angles that reminded her of ancient Earth legends about dragons. Commander Jake Sullivan was already at the docking bay when she arrived, along with several security officers. His face was grim as he watched the airlock cycle through its connection sequence. "What do we know?" Lisa asked, checking her portable scanner. "Not much," Jake replied. Their transmission was garbled, but we caught words like poison, dying, and queen. They're requesting medical assistance for someone very important. The airlock doors hissed open, and Lisa got her first close look at living Draconians. 3 of them emerged, each standing nearly 8 feet tall with scales that seemed to shimmer in the station's artificial light. Their faces were elongated, like reptiles, but their eyes held an intelligence that was clearly advanced. 2 of them wore what appeared to be military armor, while the third was dressed in flowing robes. The robed Draconian stepped forward and spoke in heavily accented but understandable English. "I am High Healer Vexstar of the Golden Fleet. We require your medical facilities immediately." "Our queen is dying," Lisa stepped forward. "And Dr. Martinez, chief medical officer, what happened to her?" Vexstar's scales seemed to darken with emotion. "Assassination attempt? Poison in her food during the Council of Scales meeting. Our own people did this to her because she made peace treaties with your kind. They consider her weak for showing mercy to humans." Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. The political implications were staggering, but Lisa's medical training kicked in. "How long has she been poisoned? What kind of toxin?" 6 hours ago. "We do not know the exact poison, but it was designed specifically to kill Draconians. Our healers refused to treat her. They say she brought dishonor to our warrior traditions." Vexstar's voice cracked with desperation. "She has perhaps 4 hours before her heart stopped beating completely." "Hearts?" Lisa asked. "How many does she have?" 3. The primary heart has already been damaged. The secondary hearts are failing." Lisa felt overwhelmed. She had studied alien biology in medical school, but only in theory. The practical experience was entirely different. "I need to see her condition. Can you bring her to our medical bay?" One of the armored Draconians shook his head. "Queen Zarathic is too large for your facilities. She measures 40 feet from nose to tail tip, with a wingspan of 38 feet. Your medical bay cannot accommodate her size." Lisa's mind raced. The largest space on the station that could fit something that big would be one of the cargo bays. "We'll need to convert Cargo Bay 7. It has the highest ceiling and the best power connections." As they spoke, other aliens on the station began to gather in the corridors. The news of the Draconian Queen's presence spread quickly through the small community. Lisa saw the crystalline Vexani traders whispering among themselves, their translucent bodies flickering with what she had learned. Meant anxiety. A group of insectoid Harketh workers clicked their mandibles in what sounded like disapproval. Dr. Amy Foster, the station's xenobiologist, arrived with a portable medical scanner. "Lisa, I heard about the emergency. How can I help?" "We need to prepare Cargo Bay 7 for a Draconian patient. The Queen herself." Amy's eyes widened. "The Queen? But I thought Draconians never left their homeworld unless they were conquering something." Vexstar overheard her comment. Queen Zarathic is different from her predecessors. She believes in diplomacy and cooperation between species. That is why her own council tried to kill her. They call her the soft scale behind her back. Lisa noticed several aliens backing away from their conversation. The Vexani traders suddenly seemed very interested in examining their cargo manifests, while the Harketh workers began talking rapidly in their clicking language. "Excuse me," Lisa called to the nearest Vexani. "Your people have advanced medical knowledge. Could you assist with treating the queen?" The crystalline being's internal light pulsed red, which Lisa knew meant fear. "We cannot involve ourselves in draconian internal politics. Too dangerous for trade relations." Lisa turned to the Harketh group. "What about your healing chambers? I know your species has regenerative technology." The largest Harketh worker stepped forward, its compound eyes reflecting the corridor lights. "Harketh medicine is for Harketh only." Draconian Queen made her choice. She must accept consequences. Amy pulled Lisa aside. "They're all afraid," she whispered. "If the Queen dies under their care, it could be seen as an act of war. If she lives and regains power, the other draconian factions might target them for helping her." Lisa looked back at Vexstar, who was watching the exchange with growing despair. The healer's scales had turned a darker shade, and his posture showed defeat. "No one will help her," Vexstar said quietly. "We have visited every medical facility between here and our homeworld. Everyone refuses. They say she chose her path when she made peace with humans and other species. They say she deserves to die for abandoning the old ways." Lisa felt something burning in her chest. It wasn't just medical duty, though that was part of it. It was something deeper, something that made her angry at the thought of letting anyone die simply because they chose peace over war. "We'll help her," Lisa said firmly. Jake put his hand on her shoulder. "Lisa, think about this carefully. If we fail, if she dies under our care, we could be starting an interstellar war." Lisa looked at him, then at Amy, then back at the desperate draconian healer. "And if we don't try, we'll be letting the one leader who chose peace die because nobody else has the courage to help her." She turned to Vexstar. "Take us to your queen?" The walk to the draconian ship felt longer than it actually was. Lisa followed Vexstar through corridors that seemed designed for beings much larger than humans. The walls were covered in golden symbols that seemed to shift and move in the dim lighting. Amy walked beside her, carrying additional medical equipment, while Jake brought up the rear with 2 security officers. When they reached the Queen's chamber, Lisa stopped breathing for a moment. Queen Zarathic lay on a massive platform in the center of the room, and she was both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Her scales were deep emerald green with streaks of gold running along her spine. Even lying down, she was enormous, easily the size of an old Earth aircraft. Her breathing was labored, and Lisa could see dark patches spreading across her scales where the poison was affecting her circulation. "How long since the poisoning began?" Lisa asked, approaching carefully. The Queen's eyes were closed, but her massive chest rose and fell irregularly. 7 hours now, Vexstar replied. The poison was placed in her ceremonial wine during the peace treaty celebration. By the time we realized what happened, it had already entered her bloodstream. Amy was scanning the Queen with her portable equipment. "Lisa, her body temperature is dropping, but it's still over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Her blood chemistry is completely different from anything in our databases." Lisa knelt near the Queen's massive head and carefully examined the membrane around her eyes. The tissue was turning a sickly yellow color. "What do you know about the poison itself?" One of the armored guards stepped forward. "Captain Rexinoff of the Queen's Guard. The poison was administered by Council Member Thrakson during the toast. He claimed it was a special wine to honor the peace treaties, but he had prepared it specifically to kill her. Our medical scans show it targets the neural pathways that control heart function." "Does your people have any antidotes or treatments?" Amy asked. Vexstar's scales darkened further. "The poison was designed by our own biological weapons experts. It was created specifically to be untreatable by draconian medicine. Thrakson wanted to ensure that once administered, death would be certain and irreversible. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The assassination had been planned with terrible precision. But if it was designed to be untreatable by your medicine, that doesn't mean human medicine can't help. She turned to Amy. I need you to get Paul Johnson down here immediately. If we're going to understand this poison, we need our best engineer. To analyze its molecular structure? While Amy contacted Paul, Lisa continued her examination. The Queen's breathing was becoming more shallow, and she could see muscle spasms running along the dragon's flanks. Time was running out faster than she had hoped. Paul arrived within minutes, carrying his molecular analysis equipment. He was a thin man with graying hair who had spent most of his career designing life support systems for extreme environments. Holy hell, he whispered when he saw the Queen. She's magnificent. Focus, Paul, Lisa said. We need to understand what this poison is doing to her system. Paul immediately began setting up his scanners near the Queen's head. I'm detecting complex protein chains that are definitely artificial. This isn't a natural toxin. He worked quickly, his equipment humming as it analyzed samples from the air around the Queen. Lisa, this is fascinating. The poison has molecular markers that are very similar to Earth-based neurotoxins, specifically ones derived from certain snake venoms. Amy looked up from her readings. That makes sense. If draconian physiology evolved from reptilian ancestors like earth dragons in our mythology, their neural systems might be vulnerable to similar compounds. Lisa felt the first spark of hope. If it's similar to Earth neurotoxins, then human antivenom treatments might be effective. Vexstar moved closer. You believe you can save her? I don't know yet, Lisa replied honestly, but we might have options that your people don't. Captain Rexonoth spoke up. Dr. Martinez, there is something else you should know. The Queen's neural implant is still recording. She can hear everything we are saying even though she cannot respond. She knows that her own people have abandoned her. Lisa looked at the Queen's massive form with new understanding. Behind those closed eyelids was a consciousness that was fully aware of her situation, aware that she was dying and aware that only the humans were willing to help her. Paul's equipment beeped with new data. Lisa, I'm seeing something interesting. The poison is targeting her primary neural pathways, but there are secondary and tertiary neural networks that seem to be unaffected. It's like her brain has backup systems that the poison wasn't designed to attack, because the assassins didn't know about those systems, Amy realized. They designed the poison based on standard draconian medical knowledge, but every individual is different. Lisa made her decision. We're going to treat her. Paul, I need you to start converting Cargo Bay 7 into a medical facility. We need life support systems that can handle her size and body temperature. Amy, start working on adapting our antivenom protocols for her physiology. Jake stepped forward. Lisa, I need to tell you something. I just received a communication from Earth Command. They're ordering us not to get involved in this situation. They say it's too politically dangerous. Lisa looked at him steadily. Are you going to stop me? Jake was quiet for a long moment. I'm going to pretend I never received that message until after we save her life. Station Administrator Helen Ross's voice crackled over the communicator. Dr. Martinez, report to my office immediately. We have a situation. Lisa ignored the call. Amy, how long do we have? Based on her current decline rate, maybe 3 hours before her remaining heart systems shut down completely? Then we work fast. Lisa turned to Vexstar. We'll need your help moving her to our cargo bay. Can your ship's systems keep her stable during transport? Yes, but Dr. Martinez, you must understand the risk you are taking. If Queen Zarathic dies under human care, many in our empire will see it as murder. There will be calls for war. Lisa looked at the Queen's still form, thinking about a leader who had chosen peace over war and was dying because of that choice. And if we don't try, the one draconian leader who wanted peace with humans will be dead. That seems like a much worse outcome. Paul was already heading toward the door. I'll start setting up the medical bay. We'll need to reroute power from 3 different grid sections to handle her life support requirements. Amy gathered her equipment. I'll start synthesizing antivenom compounds. Lisa, this is either going to be the greatest medical breakthrough in human history, or it's going to start an interstellar war. Lisa took one last look at Queen Zarathic before following her team out. Then we better make sure it's the medical breakthrough. Cargo Bay 7 had been transformed into something that looked like a medical facility designed by someone who had never seen one before. Paul Johnson and his engineering team had worked for 2 hours straight, rerouting power cables and installing makeshift life support systems. The bay's ceiling had been raised to its maximum height, and every available medical scanner had been repositioned around a central platform where Queen Zarathic would be placed. Lisa watched as the draconian ship's transport system carefully moved the Queen through the station's corridors. The process required shutting down 3 sections of the station and opening emergency bulkheads that hadn't been used since the station's construction. Queen Zarathic remained unconscious throughout the move, her massive form supported by anti-gravity fields generated by her people's technology. When they finally positioned her in the converted cargo bay, Lisa got her first clear view of the Queen's full condition. The dark patches on her scales had spread significantly in the past hour, and her breathing had become even more labored. Worse, her body temperature was dropping toward levels that Vextar said would be fatal. "We need to start treatment immediately," Lisa announced to her assembled team. Amy Foster had prepared 3 different antivenom compounds based on Earth snakebite treatments. Paul had jury-rigged a dialysis system that could handle the Queen's alien blood chemistry. Maria Santos, the station's senior technician, had modified every piece of life support equipment they owned. Dr. Kevin Wright, the station's xenopsychologist, arrived carrying a translation and neural interface device. "I thought this might help," he said. "If we can establish communication with her, we might learn more about the poison's effects." Lisa nodded. "Do it. We need every advantage we can get." As Kevin began setting up the neural interface near the Queen's head, Amy approached with her first antivenom attempt. "Lisa, I'm going to start with the compound closest to coral snake antivenom. The molecular structure matches about 60% of what Paul found in the poison." "Go ahead," Lisa replied, checking the Queen's vital signs on her improvised monitoring system. "Her primary heart rate is down to almost nothing. We're running out of time." Amy carefully injected the antivenom into one of the Queen's massive forearms. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dark patches on her scales began to shift slightly, becoming less pronounced in some areas. "It's working," Paul called out from his position at the molecular scanner. "The poison concentration is dropping in her peripheral circulation," but their celebration was premature. Within minutes, the Queen's body temperature spiked dramatically, and her breathing became rapid and shallow. The monitoring equipment began alarming as her remaining heart functions became erratic. "She's rejecting the treatment," Amy said, her voice tight with concern. "Her immune system is attacking the antivenom." Lisa felt panic rising in her chest, but forced herself to think clearly. "Kevin, are you getting anything from the neural interface?" Kevin was adjusting controls on his device, his face concentrated. "I'm getting something, but it's unlike anything I've ever encountered. Her thought patterns are incredibly complex, and there are layers of consciousness that seem almost crystalline in structure." Suddenly, Kevin jerked back from his equipment as if he had been shocked. "Lisa, she's trying to communicate. She's conscious and aware, and she's trying to tell us something about her physiology. What is she saying?" Kevin pressed his hands to his temples, his eyes closed in concentration. "She's showing me images, memories of her body structure. There's something about her heart system that the assassins didn't know. She has a secondary circulatory system that's completely separate from her primary hearts." Amy looked up from her monitoring equipment. That could explain why the poison hasn't killed her yet. If her secondary system is keeping vital organs alive, we might have more time than we thought. Lisa made a quick decision. "Paul, can you modify the dialysis system to work with 2 separate circulatory systems?" "Already on it," Paul replied, his hands flying over his control panels. "If I can isolate her secondary circulation, we can clean the poison from that system first. then use it to support her vital functions while we work on the primary system. Maria Santos called out from across the bay. Dr. Martinez, we have another problem. I'm reading massive power fluctuations. The Queen's bioelectric field is interfering with our equipment. If this keeps up, we'll lose life support for the entire section. Lisa looked around at her team, all of them working frantically to save a life that no one else in the galaxy would even attempt to preserve. Maria, reroute everything through the backup grid. Shut down all non-essential systems in this section if you have to. Kevin suddenly stood up, his face pale. Lisa, you need to hear this. The Queen is showing me why she was really poisoned. It wasn't just about the peace treaties with humans. What do you mean? She's been working secretly for months to establish something called the Alliance of Minds. It's not just peace between humans and Draconians. She's been planning to unite multiple species into a true cooperative federation. She believes that humans have something unique, something that could help all the warrior species in this galaxy evolve beyond constant conflict. Amy paused in her work. What does she think humans have that's so special? Kevin's voice was filled with wonder. Compassion. She says that in all her studies of different species, only humans consistently show genuine care for beings that are completely different from themselves. She thinks that quality could transform the entire galaxy. The monitoring equipment suddenly showed a dramatic improvement in the Queen's secondary heart function. The modified dialysis system was working, slowly filtering the poison from her blood. Her secondary circulation is stabilizing, Paul announced. But Lisa, we have a bigger problem. The poison has damaged her primary neural pathways so severely that even if we save her life, she might never regain consciousness. Lisa looked at the massive dragon lying before them, a being who had risked everything to pursue peace and was now dying because of that choice. Then we find a way to repair the neural damage. With what? Amy asked. We don't have any technology that can regenerate alien brain tissue. Lisa thought about everything they had learned in the past few hours. The Queen's unique physiology, her belief in human compassion, and the fact that her own people had designed a poison specifically to be untreatable. We use human neural regeneration techniques, Lisa said suddenly. Our experimental nanobots that we've been developing for spinal cord injuries. If we can modify them for her neural structure, they might be able to repair the damage. Paul looked skeptical. Lisa, those nanobots are designed for human neurons. We have no idea how they would interact with draconian brain tissue. Then we test it, Lisa replied. Because right now, it's the only chance she has. Security Chief Ben Turner's voice came over the communicator. Dr. Martinez, you need to know that we have ships approaching the station. 3 different alien factions, and none of them look friendly. Word is spreading through the galaxy that humans are treating the Draconian Queen. Lisa looked around at her team, all of them exhausted but still working to save a life that most of the galaxy wanted to see end. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, maybe less. Then we have 6 hours to save her life and prove that some things are more important than politics. The modified nanobots looked like tiny silver threads floating in the specialized medical solution that Amy had prepared. Lisa held the injection device carefully, knowing that what she was about to do had never been attempted before. The experimental nanobots had shown promise in repairing human spinal cord damage, but using them on an alien brain was completely unknown territory. Her neural activity is still declining, Kevin reported from his position at the brain monitoring equipment. We're losing her higher brain functions. If we're going to try this, it has to be now. Lisa looked at her team gathered around Queen Zarathic's massive form. They had been working for 8 hours straight, and exhaustion was showing on all their faces. Paul was monitoring 3 different life support systems simultaneously. Maria was constantly adjusting power flow to keep their improvised medical equipment running, and Amy was preparing backup treatments in case the nanobots failed. Are we sure about the injection site? Lisa asked. Amy pointed to a spot behind the Queen's left ear where the scales were thinner. Based on the neural mapping Kevin has done, This should give the nanobots the best access to her damaged brain tissue. Lisa carefully inserted the injection device and slowly released the nanobots into the Queen's bloodstream. For the first few minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then Kevin's monitoring equipment began showing unusual readings. "Lisa, something's happening," Kevin said, his voice filled with concern. "Her brain activity is spiking in ways I've never seen before." The Queen's massive body suddenly convulsed, her tail sweeping across the cargo bay and knocking over several pieces of equipment. Her temperature began rising rapidly, far beyond what Vexstar had said was safe for her species. "She's rejecting the nanobots," Amy called out. "Her immune system is going into overdrive trying to destroy them." Paul was frantically adjusting controls as alarms sounded throughout the medical bay. "Her blood pressure is spiking to dangerous levels. The nanobots are causing massive inflammation in her brain tissue." Lisa felt helpless as she watched the Queen's condition deteriorate rapidly. "Can we reverse the treatment?" "Not without causing even more damage," Amy replied. "The nanobots have already begun integrating with her neural tissue. Removing them now would destroy the connections they've started to repair." Security Chief Ben Turner's voice crackled over the communicator. "Dr. Martinez, the approaching ships have identified themselves. We have a Draconian war fleet, a Vexani trading consortium, and what looks like a Harketh military vessel. They're all demanding that we hand over the Queen." Lisa ignored the communication and focused on the crisis in front of her. "Kevin, can you establish any kind of contact with her consciousness?" Kevin was adjusting his neural interface equipment, sweat beading on his forehead. "I'm trying, but her brain patterns are completely chaotic right now. The nanobots are causing some kind of neural storm." Suddenly, the Queen's eyes snapped open, revealing pupils that glowed with an inner golden light. Her massive head turned toward Lisa, and when their eyes met, something extraordinary happened. Images flooded Lisa's mind. Not through Kevin's equipment, but through direct mental contact. She saw flashes of draconian history spanning thousands of years, ancient dragons who were scholars and healers, not warriors. The gradual transformation of their society into one based on conquest and violence. The destruction of entire worlds as the draconians spread across the galaxy like a plague. Of war. "Lisa, what's happening to you?" Amy's voice seemed to come from very far away. Lisa couldn't respond, because she was experiencing the Queen's memories as if they were her own. She felt the weight of generations of violence and the desperate desire to change her people's path. She experienced the Queen's first contact with humans and her amazement at finding a species that could show kindness to their enemies. The neural connection deepened, and Lisa began to understand something that no human had ever known before. The Draconians stored their genetic memories in crystalline structures within their brains, passing down the experiences of their ancestors from generation to generation. The Queen was sharing centuries of accumulated knowledge and pain. Kevin's voice broke through the mental connection. "Lisa, the nanobots are doing something incredible. They're not just repairing her damaged neurons, they're integrating with her entire neural network. I've never seen anything like this." Lisa slowly became aware of her surroundings again, but the mental link with the Queen remained. She could feel the alien's thoughts and emotions overlapping with her own. The Queen was experiencing human emotions for the first time, feeling compassion and empathy in ways her species had never known. "The treatment is working," Amy announced, checking her monitors. "Her brain activity is stabilizing, but at levels far higher than normal. It's like the nanobots have enhanced her neural capacity instead of just repairing it." Paul looked up from his equipment with amazement. "Her body temperature is stabilizing too, but there's something else. The nanobots seem to be modifying her cellular structure. I'm seeing changes in her DNA that shouldn't be possible." Through the mental link, Lisa felt the Queen trying to communicate. The thoughts came not as words, but as pure understanding that translated itself into meaning. "She's trying to tell us something," Lisa said, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. "The nanobots aren't just healing her, they're changing her in ways we never expected." Kevin's equipment was now showing readings that defied everything they knew about brain function. "Lisa, her neural activity is off the charts, but it's not chaotic anymore. It's like she's operating on a completely different level of consciousness. Maria Santos called out from her position at the power controls. Dr. Martinez, we have another problem. The energy output from the Queen's bioelectric field has increased by 300%. Our power grid can't handle much more of this. Through the mental connection, Lisa sensed the Queen's awareness of the approaching ships and the danger facing the humans who had risked everything to save her. She felt the aliens' determination to protect those who had shown her such unprecedented kindness. Ben Turner's voice came over the communicator again. The lead Draconian ship is demanding immediate surrender of the Queen. They're threatening to destroy the station if we don't comply within 2 hours. Lisa looked around at her exhausted team, all of them still working despite the threats and the unknown dangers of what they were attempting. Through her link with the Queen, she felt a surge of something that was part gratitude and part something else entirely. How long until the nanobots complete their integration? Lisa asked. Amy checked her readings. Based on current progress, maybe 6 more hours. We don't have 6 hours, Jake Sullivan said as he entered the medical bay. The war fleet has moved to attack position. They're not going to wait much longer. Lisa felt the Queen's consciousness reaching out to her again, and this time the message was clear. The treatment was changing more than just her brain function. Something fundamental about the Queen's very nature was being transformed by the combination of human medical technology and draconian biology. The question was whether they would live long enough to see what she was becoming. The first sign that something extraordinary had happened came at dawn on the 3rd day. Queen Zarathik's eyes opened fully for the first time since the treatment began, but they were different now. The golden glow that had appeared during her neural crisis had become permanent, giving her gaze an otherworldly quality that seemed to look directly into a person's soul. Lisa felt the mental connection strengthen as the Queen became fully conscious. Through their shared link, she experienced the alien's first clear thoughts since the poisoning, and what she found there made her gasp in amazement. She's completely aware, Lisa announced to her exhausted team. Not just conscious, but aware, in ways that go far beyond normal draconian intelligence. Kevin's neural monitoring equipment was showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. Her brain activity is operating on frequencies we've never recorded in any species. It's like she's thinking on multiple levels simultaneously. The Queen slowly raised her massive head and looked around the converted cargo bay. When her gaze fell on each member of the human medical team, they felt a warm sensation, as if they were being gently examined by a benevolent presence. Dr. Martinez, the Queen spoke, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in their minds as well as their ears. I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid. Amy stepped forward with her medical scanner. Your Majesty, how do you feel? Are you experiencing any pain or discomfort? Queen Zarathik considered the question carefully. I feel transformed. The nanobots have not merely healed my damaged neural pathways, they have integrated with my cellular structure in ways I never imagined possible. I can sense the life force of every being on this station. Paul looked up from his monitoring equipment with confusion. Your Majesty, that shouldn't be possible. The nanobots were designed only to repair damaged tissue. Yet here I am, the Queen replied, and suddenly she did something that no one expected. She reached out with one massive claw and gently touched Maria Santos, who had been closest to her platform. The result was immediate and shocking. Maria had been suffering from chronic back pain for years, a result of an injury sustained during the station's construction. The pain vanished instantly, and more than that, Maria looked younger, more vibrant, as if years of wear and fatigue had been erased. What did you do? Maria asked, her voice filled with wonder. The nanobots have given me the ability to heal, Queen Zarathik explained. But more than that, they have allowed me to experience emotions the way humans do. For the first time in my life, I understand what compassion truly means. Ben Turner's voice crackled over the communicator. Dr. Martinez, the Draconian war fleet is demanding immediate communication with their Queen. They're threatening to attack in 30 minutes if their demands aren't met. Queen Zarathik's golden eyes flashed with determination. Open the channel. To my people? Within minutes, the cargo bay's main screen showed the bridge of the lead Draconian warship. General Thakmur, the Queen's own military commander, appeared on screen with his scales darkened in anger. Your Majesty, Thakmur said, his voice cold and formal. You have brought dishonor to our people by accepting help from these inferior beings. The Council of Scales has declared you unfit to rule. The Council of Scales poisoned me, Thakmur, the Queen replied calmly. They tried to murder me because I chose peace over endless war. You chose weakness, the general spat. You have forgotten what it means to be Draconian. Queen Zarathik stood to her full height, her massive form filling the cargo bay. But instead of the threatening posture that Draconians typically use to show dominance, she spread her wings in a gesture that somehow conveyed both strength and peace. I have not forgotten what it means to be Draconian, she said. I have remembered what we were before we became monsters, before we spread across the galaxy destroying everything we touched. The mental link between Lisa and the Queen suddenly expanded, and through it Lisa felt the Queen reaching out to touch the minds of every Draconian in the fleet. The genetic memories stored in her crystalline brain structures began broadcasting telepathically, sharing visions of their species' ancient past on the screen. General Thakmur suddenly staggered, his eyes widening as he experienced the same visions Lisa had seen. Ancient Draconians who were scholars and healers, not warriors. A proud civilization that had built wonders instead of destroying them. This is what we once were, Queen Zarathik said, her voice now carrying across space to every Draconian mind in the fleet. This is what we can become again. One by one, the other ships in the fleet began opening communication channels. Lisa watched on the screens as Draconian after Draconian experienced the mental connection with their transformed queen. Some resisted, their scales darkening with anger. But others began to change, their eyes taking on the same golden glow that now marked their queen. Dr. Wright suddenly looked up from his neural interface equipment. Lisa, something incredible is happening. The Queen's transformation is spreading to other Draconians through their shared genetic memory network. The nanobots are somehow transmitting their effects telepathically. Amy stared at her medical readings in disbelief. This is impossible. Technology doesn't work this way. Human technology doesn't, the Queen said gently. But when combined with Draconian neural structures, it has created something entirely new. Over the next several hours, more ships arrived at the station. Not all of them were hostile. The Vexani traders who had previously refused to help brought medical supplies. The Harketh workers offered their regenerative technology. Word was spreading through the galaxy that something unprecedented was happening at the remote human mining station. Queen Zarathik spent the day healing anyone who approached her, regardless of species. Each being she touched was transformed in some way, not just physically healed but emotionally changed. The violent Draconian soldiers in her fleet began working alongside human engineers to establish what she called the First Interstellar Medical Center. Lisa watched in amazement as centuries of interspecies conflict began to dissolve before her eyes. The Queen's transformation had sparked something that no one had thought possible. A genuine alliance based not on political necessity, but on shared compassion. Dr. Martinez, Queen Zarathik said during a quiet moment between healing sessions, your people have given me something I never knew existed. You have shown me that strength can come from kindness, that power can be used to heal instead of destroy. Lisa looked around the station that had become a gathering place for dozens of species, all working together for the first time in galactic history. We just did what felt right. That is exactly what makes humans special, the Queen replied. In a galaxy full of species that measure worth by conquest and domination, only humans consistently choose to help those who are different from themselves. 6 months later, the Interstellar Medical Center had become the most important facility in the galaxy. Queen Zarathik, who had taken the human name Hope as a symbol of transformation, worked alongside Dr. Lisa Martinez to establish healing centers on dozens of worlds. The shocking outcome was not that humans had saved an alien queen, but that Human compassion had transformed an entire civilization and opened the door to a new age of cooperation among the stars.